going on, everybody? Welcome back to Three Guys and a Ball. And today the ball's name is Chris Grollnek. What's going on, Chris?
Hold on, one second. Is that ball blue? Did I see some blue? What did you do to that ball?
Yeah, we were hitting this around on a blue court. So this ball is blue.
Were you playing with Papa Smurf? Is that what's going on, or what happened?
We were playing at the junior high tennis courts, bro, and they are old, and that paint is coming off on all of our balls. So have a basket full of blue balls right now from that.
You must have been playing in the Porta John. That's what it was.
I'm on the wrong webcast.
Blue balls.
Hey, Chris. Do you want to keep going, or do you just want to get off now?
I feel welcomed. It's all right.
There we go. Tell us about yourself, Chris. What's going on?
Hey, Chris Grollnek. Pleasure to meet y'all. I know most of you, spoke to most of you. I've been in the active shooter prevention business for about 12 years. I was one of the first people in America to write my capstone master's project on the phenomena of active shooters. And in 2010, was involved in an active shooter at our police department, the McKinney Police Department. Somebody showed up and fired 168 rounds at us with an M16 and a brand new scope, and didn't know what optical offset was. Thank God. All rounds went above our heads, which is good. And I got to watch how people act in the middle of an active shooter in living time. So I took that knowledge, went to Homeland Security, wrote a couple videos, I worked with Run, Hide, Fight, made one after that for DHS, helped with TSA, and got hooked up with the program manager for the FBI Active Shooter Prevention Unit, Catherine Schweit. And from there, just went far and wide. So I retired in 2018. A lot of personal things going on. And in about a year ago, I came back to do one case. I can't really talk about it, but I'm working on the Parkland Parkland school shooting case. And I don't do too many school shootings. So, I'm not capable of profiting off the backs of dead kids. So, it's like a personal policy. But what I'm doing for this is just a different, everything went wrong there. So I'm kind of evaluating what happened. So I kind of got sucked back into this, and I run the Active Shooter Prevention Project now with the First Preventers Group. And I'm here with you guys today.
Well, that's terrible. Active shooter, we talked about that too much. So let's just hit stop. I don't know if we want to keep talking about that.
Yeah, maybe still talk about it. Right? We have a lot of problems.
But are we going to talk about something interesting with it?
Yeah, I think we are. I think we're going to talk about change. Change is good. Nobody likes it, but it's going to be good.
All right. So change, like a great campaign slogan. But what does that mean for us today?
Yeah. Well, if you evaluate where you work, live, act, hang out. Go ahead, Jacob. What you got? What does it mean for you?
No, I was raising my hand like I did last time on our last episode.
You were raising a finger. You're going like this.
No. I was going to say, I want to ask Chris a question here of, first off, we got to accept where we're at. We can't change anything or grow in any direction if we don't accept and acknowledge where we currently are in the present. So where are we now, Chris? Where is the issue in this perspective of this violence and what we've been dealing with?
Well, everything starts with a really good idea. I like to call it the good idea fairy shows up, and somebody has that good idea and they fly with it, right? So somebody came up with, hey, we're going to need to do something about active shooters. After Columbine, law enforcement really, I'm a retired police officer and longtime former Marine. And, active shooters mean different things to different people. And in the law enforcement industry, we watched Columbine as a unique failure that, went south from the beginning all the way to the end because the police showed up, surrounded the building, waited for SWAT, and we know the rest. So the law enforcement shifted gears and they started saying, hey, we're going to show up and make entry, 2-man teams, 3-man teams. And now it's been reduced to first man on scene, show up, stop the shooter. So we started deciding that, hey, someone has to start teaching the citizens, the regular people, the everyday people inside those buildings, schools and other, churches, places of worship, wherever, the fairgrounds, what happens when shots are fired? What does a citizen do? Because, there's this thing that police have called POLA, Priority of Lives Assessment, right? So if you're at a bank robbery, the priority of lives is the hostages, then the witnesses, the people that could be hurt, then the police, and then the hostage taker. But in an active shooter, we invert that polar chart, and it's now the only thing that we're on focused on, linear focused, right? Not even both ways, solid focus, stop the shooter. Because stats have come out that if I stop and I help a suspect or a victim that's down, been shot, and they're bleeding out, and they're right in front of me, and I hear gunshots, that a trained EMT paramedic takes about a minute to stop the bleeding. That's combat vets, that's street paramedics, that's firefighters. Doctors may be a little faster, but to assess a wound, jam on a tourniquet, and stop the bleeding, you're talking about 1 minute. An active shooter can engage and kill 4 people in a minute, and that number exponentially changes every 2 minutes. So you have 16 victims by the time you assess 2 victims, right? So instead of worrying about that one victim, it's kind of like the greater good analogy, where you have to move forward, stop the shooter, and then come back and save who you can save and work your best, because you can only do so much good work in a day.
Yeah, it's
And
the ultimate form of tactical triage. I know as an Army medic, the hardest thing for them to get through to us is when it's appropriate to treat patients.
yeah, you see somebody you want to
scenario.
stop that bleeding.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like, hey, you need to be shooting or moving, not doing that right now. And then as you're dealing with the people in your teams and your platoons, you need to try to impart that same thing to them. And that's where a lot of pushback comes, is like, hey, it's not always appropriate to be doing medical care right now. There's something sometimes to take care of and then get back to that.
And that's what I think.
That's a hard topic to get through people's heads.
And I think that's really a good point too, because a lot of people, they just want to help, right? You have the Good Samaritan laws that prevent people from getting sued from actually saving someone's life. But the thing is, what people don't realize, like you said, Chris, is that they need to understand the priority from a tactical standpoint, right? Like you said, victims, it takes a minute to stop the bleeding from a good person, from a trained person. An untrained person might take a hell of a lot longer if they get the bleeding to stop at all. While you're saving that person, you're also exposing your own life on top of that. So if you get shot, now you got 2 people bleeding out and both of you end up dying, which ends up making the situation worse. So, but people need to understand from the civilian standpoint is that, look, you always prioritize what you're trying to do. And the first thing is always to stop the threat. Another thing that I'm really glad you brought up, Chris, is that you said that the police are finally starting to understand that maybe we need to start teaching the civilians. Right, because the thing is that majority of active shooters end within about 5 minutes. Most of their casualties happen in that first 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, it could last up to 10 minutes, but most of it happened in the first 5 minutes. And one of those things that I realized is that cops, what's the average response time of a police officer, especially for an active shooter? 3.5 minutes? 3 minutes?
Well, it's changed exponentially. So it used to be 5 minutes to 17 minutes, and that's first shots fired, dispatch radios, police on scene in 5 minutes, 17 minutes to the first victim, 23 minutes to the shooter. And that's changed. We've got it down to about 3 minutes, but still in the first 3 minutes, you're talking about,
a lot of people.
Now, the strategic average right now, if you're looking at, the hit rate and things that citizens don't want to talk about, or as you say, civilians, but looking from a strategic point of view, which is, the wholesome overview, or the tactical, I'm on scene, what do I do? Looking at it from that priority, anybody with a gun is going to score about 2 hits a minute. So, if they're good, right? If they train, practice, whatever, like few shooters like the San Jose guy, he killed 9 people plus himself, 10 people plus himself in about 12 minutes. So he was methodical and deliberate. Really quick, going back to that priority lives assessment, I said it inverts during an active shooter, and that's because we go straight to the shooter and stop them. The next person in that chain of events is the police. Save yourself so you can stop the shooter. Then the third is innocent bystanders, if there are anybody looky-loos, and there will be people straight SOS, right? Stuck on stupid. They're watching the event in real time. And then finally, kind of everybody else. So once you learn that POLA and you realize the police need to do something different, they came out with Run, Hide, Fight in 2012 and 13. It gained traction. Everyone bought on as if it was a thing for children. Stop, drop, and roll. And often we equate that with, hey, no kid's been lost in a fire in over 50 years. Stop, drop, and roll works good. Let's run, hide, fight, right? So when you start run, hiding, and fighting, you all of a sudden stop your thought process and you don't have the next step philosophy. And we need to do a better job. And I'm talking about as a community of professionals, human beings, police, citizens, military. And we need to sell that message that, look, stop the shooter. Run, hide, fight may work, but it's not always going to work. And if you look at some recent shootings, look at their evacuation plans. They're dotted lines right into the shooter because they're following the fire code instead of another strategic advantage. Go, because you're on.
Okay, so Alice training. I got sent through Alice training. Okay, nothing against it. Right now, I went through to observe it for when we did our multi-dimension stuff for my district. What I brought up to them, I said, look, using E as evacuation ties into an already trained deliberate fire egress in the head of your audience and your clients. You're teaching them to evacuate similar to their fire drills when fire code requires primary and secondary routes to have occupancy in a building, correct? For education. No, you need to teach escape. And we had this big argument in front of the whole group. And I said, look, escape is hasty. Escape is what they did in Virginia Tech when they escaped out of windows on the second floor. Escape is when you break something to create a new exit that wasn't there prior, like a door from a doorway or a window. So you brought up a good point of run, hide, fight, but let's not forget where we're still at with a lot of districts in our K through 12 environment. They still use the term lockdown, which is the most dangerous term in this game.
How many kids did Cho kill at Virginia Tech in one classroom? Do you remember?
More than 15.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know how he got in there?
Yeah, he held someone at gunpoint at the end of the door, at the outside of the door.
They were locked in place, sheltered in place, right? And I'm over 50 years old, guys. So I remember in the 70s going to school, we were sheltering in place because the Russians were sending missiles. And we had those little desks and we would hide under them. And we would do these earthquake drills and we would do these tornado drills. And we would do the Russian, the missiles are coming drills. Who cares? The point is we tried to carry that into run, hide, fight. Go, Tim.
Hey, so not that I'm claiming to be smart or anything, I'm totally not, but sheltering in place does one thing for administrators and lawyers. It helps you find everybody later. Whereas 100%. Escaping, you're like, where the hell is everybody at? And that's part of the attraction, I personally believe, but that's also part of the problem. What do you guys think about that?
I think a video camera, right? Real quick. I think.
Oh, no, go ahead.
It's the video camera philosophy. If we have videos, we're going to stop a shooter. What we have is great witnesses. That's it. We've got a historical perspective of what happened, what went wrong. And to your point, Tim, that it doesn't always work well for other people. Yeah. I'm sorry, Paul.
Oh, no. So, I mean, it's really, I'm really glad that this conversation is happening again, because one of the biggest issues with the lockdown problem and everything else is just like you said, someone can hold a gun out in front. But the other thing is too, is that we're not teaching our people to think for themselves. We spend all this money and all this time telling our kids, hey, we need to improve their critical thinking skills. We need to have them think for themselves to be able to use their mental capacity to start making the correct decisions on their own and not be robots. But yet when it comes to stuff like this, I need you to lock in place and don't do anything else until the police show up. Right.
Well, that's convenient. That's why, because they can train their drills at school to be convenient. Because why? Because a drill is just training. It's set up. But it doesn't support.
You can keep a drill going on during the classroom day.
If the military did that, everybody would be dead right now.
Well, that's the thing, Paul. This is why do you think I got into this world of training for our schools? Because it's not a cool thing to do. And Chris, I know you know this. It's not cool. Like, it's not cool to leave government contracting work and work in schools. It's not cool. It's not a high-speed ninja thing to do. But there's a whole lot of support that's needed.
I will say, bro, I mean, I know that
we need more people out there.
I know you get a carton of chocolate milk twice a day. So
yeah, I wish I had a lunchroom.
Nap time.
The grill, they closed the grill. They closed the grill at the freaking cafeteria. It's terrible.
You can't even barbecue anymore?
Peanut butter and jelly snacks. Peanut butter and jelly snacks, brother. You're good.
No, they got big fat Reese's cup cookies.
The rectangle little like slice of pizza thing?
Dude, are you kidding me, bro?
Dude, I haven't been to school since 2000.
That got X'd out when, Mothers of America said the fat and happy pork chop platoon can't eat those anymore.
Oh, that's too bad though, because I used to Well, never mind. We won't get into that. But
Hey, so let me just pick up where you're at, because I think that's a really good transition point right there, from pizza to working at a school that's not cool. And I will tell you this, Jacob, you know what? Life is all about being humbled and, learning from the greatness and going backwards. And if you could be a Marine forever, then you probably would. The difference is one day your body's not going to let you be a Marine. I've got firsthand knowledge. I had heart surgery 20 years ago. So one day I woke up and, I had a tumor growing through my heart. Did I survive? Yeah, but it took a lot of transition. And the Marine Corps didn't want me to deploy anymore. So they said, hey, thanks for your time. Merry Christmas. And then the police said, yeah, sure, come on in. I tried federal law enforcement, hated it, went into Dallas up to McKinney and, had a great career. Point is, you always have to just find your value of what you can do and move forward to help others. And that's almost exactly what we're talking about right now. Paul said there's unlimited budgets for certain people. So, we've shot down critical thinking for children and even young adults and become Facebook, Messenger, Instagram experts when it comes to active shooter. Take the guns away, everything's going to be fine. Not realizing the gun isn't the problem, violence is the problem. And where does violence come from? It's a human being problem. So when the government has a large amount of money, okay, and let's talk about how much that is, unlimited. What would they do to protect the president of the United States? Anything. How much does it cost? Doesn't matter. So you have the largest home possible in one of the major metropolitan districts, DC, which is the White House, the most secure home in the world, and it's open to the public. Now, maybe not right now, but generally, the people's house, it's open to the public. And the president lives there and nothing happens to him. Why is that? Because the Secret Service doesn't just use the onion philosophy, they use everything philosophy. And we should be ashamed of ourselves for not pushing. We need to use an onion plus philosophy for our children. And the thing I'm preaching, and I came out of retirement to preach this, run, hide, fight is a great thing if you just want to see what happens and hope for the best. But run, hide, fight needs to be exponentially different. We need a whole philosophy, not just a 3-word saying that says, hey, let's remember this, kids, and move on. Because fire, stop, drop, and roll, as I started with, transitions into fire prevention, safety alarms, big red exits. What happens if you start getting shot at? Your brain stops seeing color and it goes straight to black and white and it can only see red. So here we are, we're in an emergency. We got our iPhone and we're like, hey, dial 911, and the button's freaking green. You can't see it. You can see it in red. So you can hang up on 911, but you can't call them. And few people recognize that thing. So we need to figure out how to get smarter with A, our technology, B, our messaging, and create a national standard like the Secret Service has for the government standards. Give that to the rest of the people and you will reduce violence exponentially.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And here's the other thing too, is that a lot of what I keep hearing, and this is over and over again, it's like they don't want to do active shooters because one, active shooters is scary, right? It scares kids. Well, we don't want to scare the kids. And there's a few, training institutions out there that have actually gotten in trouble from scaring the living daylights out of school kids, right? It's been on the news for
Yes,
several years, right?
And
that's what happens when cool guys try to work at school.
Uh-oh, shots fired.
Right. But the thing is that, so that incident, that isolated incident has caused this dichotomy of active shooter training being scary, when in reality, the truth of the matter should be active shooter training should not be scary. It's actually, as a matter of fact, when I teach a lot of my clients active shooter, I make it fun, right? Psychologically speaking, if you're laughing at it or if you're kind of enjoying your time, kind of like almost like a video game, creates that dopamine effect. You're actually able to remember the stuff a lot better than if you were like death by PowerPoint, when you're going to be falling asleep and so on and so forth. Or if you're scared out of your mind when all you want to do is get out of the situation and never go back.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely right. And, the more entertaining you make it, the better it is. But, we're not centralized just to kids on that. There was a place in, I think, like Beaver Creek, Colorado, that a nursing home, 2 police officers with a really good idea went in to teach active shooter prevention, brought a 5-shot Smith & Wesson hammerless revolver, loaded it with blanks, and started taking hostages and forgot to tell everybody, oh, it's a drill. They were sued for a ginormous amount of money. A couple of women had almost strokes. The nurses, male nurse never was able to come back to work because he was traumatized. And, we can say, oh, well, they need to suck it up or whatever. But think about that. So a lot of the other misnomers, especially on this, Paul, where it's too scary, a lot of teaching people have that philosophy. Hey, look, I've got a tactile pen. You stab someone in the eye if you have to. You do whatever it takes. And I say, wait a minute. What if my kid's in the audience? I don't want my kid stabbing anybody in the eye. My kid's
Right.
got a GTFO, period, end discussion. And
Right.
how does she get out? By what Jacob said, creating the escape porthole that doesn't exist, right? She got dynamite, blow a hole in the wall. I'd be proud of her. The point is, right? Point is, how do you address those topics to where we can make it palatable for children to talk about it and for teachers to talk with children? They, like Texas, we've got active shooter prevention training, but you know what prevention means to the teachers? The loss of additional life, not preventing the active shooter. So we need to remember all these semantics really do matter, right?
Right.
What's an active shooter?
Yeah.
What's a mass shooting? What's a mass casualty event? What's a serial killer? Those things matter because you have to address them each and whole, but you can use a new active shooter prevention unit like a fire marshal unit and kind of roll this out. And it's not going to cost a lot of money. The thing it's going to cost is capital, political capital, and brain power. And somebody much smarter than me down the road is going to have to help. Yeah, the Secret Service has a great program. What is that? Is that STOP or is that ATSV? I can't see it.
This is a new
Yeah.
one that just came out. So we just had them brief us last week, one of their instructors. And one of the best things that I want to bring up to all you all here is when this subject comes up, you have to challenge people and ask yourself, who is training the most nationally for these type of incidents in their organization? It's our schools. Because by code, most states require it. Now, here's the other problem. All states are required to do fire drills by code. And in our state, don't know how others are, pretty sure it's a national standard. For education, it's annotated. It has to be at least one drill a month. However, in certain states, they only require 2 or 3 active threat drills a year. So we're not even balanced on how we're doing the drills. But what I want to bring up about this is that in here of all the cases that they studied, and it's all open source information, the ones they studied, so you can hear the details. But more than not, the planned violence was going to be in the cafeteria of a school. So I bring this up where if you train as an organization, whether you're a school, government facility, whatever you might be, if you're not training for the full scope of your daily operation, meaning your common areas, your cafeterias, your gymnasiums, whatever you might have. But if you just train in your office or your classroom, you're failing yourself and your team, because that isn't even where these assailants are planning these attacks. The stats show it.
And they become targets of opportunity. And that's where you end up with the Sandy Hooks, the Parklands, I can go into 100, but that's not
right.
But you're right. You have to permit wholesale.
I mean, a lot of this too is a matter of convenience, right? A lot of times when teachers have to do drills, like, oh, okay, come on, here we go again. Let's hit the button, let's go ahead and do our thing. And when it comes to active shooter drills, if they even have it at all, and some school districts do in California, some don't, right? Even though it's mandated, I think one school in California, I remember asking a student, hey, when was the last time you did your active shooter drill? Excuse me, what's that? And California mandates requires all schools to do it. And the reason why I say some of them don't is because if they do it, they don't even know what it is. They just said, go here, lock it down. And you're right. All they do is lockdown drills, right? They wait for the police officers to show up. And what they don't realize is, look, a gunman with a fully loaded magazine can do a lot of damage in about 3.5 minutes. He can shoot blankly into a room. You might miss a few, but eventually he's going to get lucky and hit something. But the thing is that we have to get out of this mentality. And I've been beating my head up against the wall to say this to people, and nobody seems to want to listen, despite all the crap that's been going on. That they always have this "it's never going to happen to me" mentality.
Welcome to "it'll never happen here."
Yes.
I use that on my slogan. Yeah.
Right.
So, Chris, I got a question for you. When you hear this, but sir, statistically, it's not likely it will happen.
Okay. The first thing I say is, why do you think the government is funneling so much money into the program? Because when it does happen, well, what more do you want? We paid money for it. There's nothing they can do, they think, to avert it. So, I know we're getting close to the end, and I just want to make sure I get this out right. I'm not name dropping, but I think there's these 3 important tenets, and it's more than run, hide, fight, right? We have to start looking at this through the holistic prism, and those are words that are overused, but they are very fitting for right now. We just need to be the pros, right? And this could be the 3 of us, the 4 of us, the 400 of us, or the 400 million, well, 330 million of us. But it has to be prevention. What does prevention mean to you? Because to schools, what Paul just said, yeah, they did an active shooter drill because they're mandated. The principal tabletopped one, and that counts. Kids never heard of it. Teachers never heard of it. So what does prevention mean? It means preventing the kids that are on the path to the wrong, destination, or even hey, look, let's call it out what it is. The military, the suicide hotlines and suicide numbers are exploding over the last couple of weeks, and they're going to go up. How do we go find those people and avert that and slow that down and prevent suicides? You know what the problem is? There's not a return on prevention, but I'm telling you there is, and we found a way to do that. Not just me, smart people. Like, I'm dumb, very smart people. Then so you have the prevention, right? The P, the R for the second part of the pro. That's the response. What type of response? Are you teaching my kid to stab somebody in the eye with a pencil, or are you giving her a soup can like Alice said? The answer is maybe neither one. Maybe it's something better than that. And the third is all these other add-ons, right? And here's a couple shout outs to a couple people that really deserve it. There's some folks over at Wings, retired FBI guy, retired DEA guy, former hostage rescue guy, and lady Rebecca Rush. And whoever's dog that is awesome.
Yeah, somebody mute
Sorry.
their microphone, because that's all I hear is a dog.
Yeah, I hear the dog. It's funny because it's every time you say a name, the dog goes. "Roar."
Hey, Chris, hit that company again. Hit it again.
It's called Wingshield. All right, wingshield.com, and you're looking for somebody named Rebecca Rush. All right, and we're going to the school violence seminar that's coming up in Florida somewhere. It's not even important. I'll drop some names. You can maybe drop them in your link there, Jacob. These are going to be the other people with us, right? So you got the prevention, which is the Rick Shaw, right? Awareness. It's a program that works great for schools, and it's all over America. You got the response. That's me. I'm an expert in it. And what's an expert really know? Well, I've been involved in one, and I was the 5th person in America to write my dissertation. And I've been doing it for so long that, I kind of know it better than my own name. But I know where my faults are, and those faults are the run, hide, fight. So we need to extrapolate that. We need to get past that and add on to it. And that's what this new pro strategy is. And we have solutions, and we have opportunities. And this is free, right? This is not just free advice. This is, if you're teaching active shooter right now, say, let's pick on Paul and me. Paul's teaching like the golden standard, best package ever. And then I show up to a place the next day that Paul was at. I'm like, hey, I've got a package too. What do you want to see? Active shooter prevention? Let's do run, hide, fight. And the people there yesterday are like, well, some other dude said this hard thing, and that's too hard. We're going to go with your program. The problem is it's not standardized. And I don't mean socialized. I mean standardized, to where at least it's the more than the good idea fairy and less than this is what you have to do every month with a big red truck that says fire prevention. You just need common sense, and we all need to work together as an industry. And I'm telling you, this will change. We will change this in 10 years. We will not have another Columbine. We will not have another Parkland. But right now, the threat matrix, every light is flashing that there's going to be something bigger than the most recent tragedy, because these kids are watching them. They're studying them. They're pissed off. They're watching parents yell at each other. They're watching people be uncivil. They're watching incivility in restaurants, yelling at waitresses and wait. I mean, you go anywhere right now and you're getting horrible service, and then you're mad, then they're mad, and madness begets madness. How can you change that? One kind thought a day. That's it.
Well, since you're plugging people, I'm just going to plug the kindness games. Chris, I don't know if you see it going on, but that actually does change your sphere of influence and affects others. But beyond that, you're absolutely right. Coming out of these lockdowns or going back into lockdowns, I have friends in Australia right now. They got out of lockdown for like 3 weeks, and they went back into full lockdown. Indoor masks are being mandated in more places now. It looks like we're headed back into some sort of reduced freedom type of environment again for COVID, but people are already losing their minds, losing their civility. If you see these signs, what can we predict, right? Violence is going to get worse and worse and worse until there's some sort of a a large pressure valve release for a long time. So this is something we need to think about. This is something that as an organization, you need to strategize on.
And one more, Elisa, I don't want to leave her out. Jacob introduced me to her, great lady, threat assessment. She is like on point, on target. And I'm telling you, the more people we roll out into this sphere of influence, and I'm talking by February. So what are we at, September tomorrow? By February, I'm gonna be rolling out a package nationally that I want everybody to come on for free and do their own thing. But let's at least get our minds together and come up with at least a benchmark. And you got these people like Rick Shaw that are geniuses with computer platforms. Elisa, who can write just about anything. Some dummy like me that can get on, your TV and yell like a drill instructor. Hoorah, 3rd Battalion. Thank you very much. And yeah, hey, 10 cycles, Jacob, right there, brother. Swagger stick and all. And yeah, shout out to the Marine Corps. And
Semper Fidelis.
Hoorah, hoorah. Yeah, no. And there's so many things that are happening. We just got to get off that run, hide, fight, get into the, not my model, PRO, but a model that is based on PRO. What's prevention, what's response, and what are the other tangible things that you can do? And those companies that are out there that have geniuses working for them, and I'm talking about high level people, SES, senior executive staff working on building things and then rolling them out in the private sector. We can do this, but the government ain't going to do it. We're going to have to do it and push from the bottom up. And my last thing I'm going to say is MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, started as a one mother who lost a child, and it pushed a whole national standard into a change. And you know what? We can do that with this, right? So we just got to focus.
Absolutely. Awesome, Chris. Well, great for having you on. Jake, Paul, any last words of wisdom or otherwise?
No,
yes.
It's great having Chris on. Thank you very much. It's awesome.
Yeah, Chris,
this is the great stuff.
I just want to add one last thing. We need to also challenge people, and this is all ages, that
Every day.
you're harmless unless you're capable of grave violence.
Yes. And I'm gonna send you a couple links, you guys, for the end of the podcast. I'm gonna send you a couple scores, maybe use them for your kindness games. Feel free to steal them, Tim. It's a list of what we see in the melting pot from the PhD level, not my level, but smarter people, of here's some determining factors of creating violence going down the road and what we can do to stop them. And I'm saying one random act of kindness a day, gonna help.
So true. All right, everybody.
God bless America. Y'all have a good day.
Yay.
Thanks, Chris. And 3 guys in the ball. We're out.
Deuce.